Thanks, Oscar. But before starting the demo, let me explain some of the features we will show, as this could be the first time you see them. OSE provides some machine learning and advanced analytics capabilities that have been packaged to be used by anyone, even if you don't have a strong data science knowledge. On the one hand, we have advanced analytics functions like sentiment analysis that returns the sentiment of a test field. On the other hand, we have pre-built machine learning models. These models need some training with example data, and this example data is usually historical data that we have and that contains the attribute we want to predict. Once the model has been created, we can apply it to our actual data, getting the new outcome. So, for example, based on our accounts receivables, we can create a model to predict the likelihood that customers pay their invoice on time. This model can be applied to new customers for a more efficient collections. And as said, a wide range of options is already packaged with OSE, but we can also use our custom models as OSE provides support for R and Python. And that's all I wanted to explain, so let's go to the demo. Let's pretend that I'm a CFO and I'm using OSE as my interactive cockpit where I can track in real time all the important KPIs of my business. So metrics like revenue, operating expense, income, and others like my visualizations help me to easily get the actual status of the business. And not only the latest info, but also the historical values that shows the trends. And moreover, using machine learning capabilities, I can get predictions on the future that enhance my data and helps me to identify potential risk. OSE also provides new ways of visualizing data, like narrative views that transform metrics into text. Checking this insight, I see that predicted revenue is trending below forecasted revenue, meaning a 14% variance. It's an important fact that grabs my attention. Let's dive on this topic by maximizing the revenue line chart. As we said before, this revenue insight shows the historical revenue of past months and the forecasted revenue input by our sales management. However, our revenue predictions models foretell a flat future, and we see the differences between forecasted and predicted revenue as the narrative was flagging out. These revenue models take into consideration not only historical financial data, but also external data like customer social sentiment, competitive inputs, churning, and so on and so forth. So we come back to our cockpit to check if there is anything that explains this gap. We see another important recommendation, alerting that predicted OPEX for UK will end over previous year OPEX. In this case, our machine learning model predicts that the sum of actual OPEX plus the prediction will be over what we did last year. So we are facing two issues in the next coming months: revenue down and OPEX up that will impact our bottom line. With machine learning, besides analyzing the past, we can anticipate the future and be provided with insights and recommendations so we can take actions to change it. As a CFO, one of my key goals is being predictable because revenue or profitability misses have an important share price implication in the stock market. At this point, I first decide to focus on the OPEX and call my business analyst in order to track down the potential issues with operating expenses to see how to resolve it, so it does not impact my annual profitability estimations. Now, as a business analyst, I go to an operating expenses detail dashboard. I will focus on UK, as seems to be the region with the issues. First thing I notice is that narrative highlights contingent expenses on two cost centers. And I also see that in the operating expense by cost center insight, where blue bars on business and computer science seem to be outliers. However, contingent salaries refers to temporary workers, and maybe this is a normal value, so we will need to check data from our planning and budgeting system in order to see if this was expected in the budget. OSE can blend several sources of information, so we already have planning data in our project. So let me select the predicted actuals, the actuals and the budget, and also the month. And then just with a right click, I can choose a bar visualization from all the available options. Well, first thing, I need to drag all the metrics on the same axis to easily compare them. And now let me rearrange the canvas to get a more readable one. And as we see, there is no big difference in latest months or predicted ones. But if we drill on details of account growth by dragging this field to the filters and selecting the contingent salaries, now we clearly see the gap between budgets and actuals, and predicted data shows that this will continue next month. We do not need to wait until the end of the quarter or of the year to consolidate our accounts and then realize the gap. Now I wonder if this increase in expenses also happened last year, so could be a seasonality issue. So I'm going to duplicate the insight and use previous year OPEX instead of budget. So we go to our financial data and drag the previous year OPEX over the budget, merging data from two different sources in one visualization. We still see that the actuals are over previous year, confirming that the increase in contingent salaries did not happen last year. So we need to continue looking for the root of the issue. Checking at the top visuals, we have seen that computer science and business are the cost centers with highest contingent salaries. So we would like now to check those cost centers and their planning data. In order to do so, we go to another dashboard with planning and HR info. We have some visualization on the tab, like total variance to budget trend and comparison between contingent and non-contingent salaries. However, I realized the top alert about voluntary turnover in July. If this is mainly in the business and computer science cost centers, that would explain the issue. Let me filter the data by the cost center just by dragging the field into the top filter bar and selecting business and computer science. This filtering reveals three main points that give us a great background. First, variance drastically dropped off around August. Second, almost all leavers in July were from these two cost centers, and our attrition models predict that we will lose some more employees next following months. And third, also in August, we had the spike on contingent salaries, while we had a big reduction on non-contingent. So we clearly see the relationship between leavers and the increase on contingent salaries. This turnover issue explains the increase in the operating expenses, and that is causing the drop on our revenue that was predicted by our machine learning models. Summing up, with the OSC Cockpit and the machine learning, the CFO has been able to identify an issue in the early stages without the need of waiting to the end of the quarter or the year. Then, their business analyst, taking advantage of the blending features, has analyzed data from finance, planning, and recruitment to discover the root of the problem, allowing business management to take a decision that can drive the company back to good results. And that's all for this demo, so Oscar, over to you again.